OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, Dear Hayesy-B later this hour. Best bet still to come. Cody Decker coming up, former MLB vet, Sirius XM host. He'll join us here in a moment. The Jays losing this afternoon. Mets home opener. Pretty electric down there, like you would expect. Juan Soto getting announced to the crowd. Place goes crazy. And then Vladdy gets called out, and he got a couple of cheers down there. Met fans are getting ahead of themselves here. They're trying to wine and dine Vladdy, right? He always said he wouldn't want to play for the Yankees, although he's changed his tune on that from a marketing standpoint and I think from a negotiating standpoint. But as far as I know, he hasn't said anything about the Mets or having any issue with the New York Mets. So I guess anything's possible until he actually signs a deal.
He wants cash. That's
he
what
wants
he wants
to get paid. Vladdy wants like $500 million. That's what it just seems like. That's the bold number, right? Like 500 fully guaranteed. Lock it in. Let's go.
But
figure it out.
At some point, you got to go. Are you going to give it to me or not? Or you move on. But
right.
I would love to know in a canned moment, do you actually like Toronto? Like, do you like being here? Do you like the city? Do you like all of that? Like, I would say yes, but I don't know. I've never met him, talked to him about it, obviously.
He's always said that's the case. I mean, everyone will probably say that about everywhere, but I have no reason to believe anything is untruthful there. He's been here for a long time, and I think it is simply about a dollar amount. Like, because the Jays could sniff that out. Like, if they offered him $500 or met his price and he started humming and hawing, then he's not serious about staying here.
Right,
you get your answer. But at this point, if he's, holding strong, it's more about the negotiation. And what is, I wouldn't say frustrating because it's not imperative. It doesn't have to happen right now. You've got a lot of games left. You have a full season, then an off season. Is that if the Jays know, like, they're going to do it, like they're just going to pay him at some point.
Right.
That's what can be a little bit confusing. It's like if you're eventually just going to buckle and give it to him anyway,
give it to him now and move on.
For? Exactly. Yeah. Then maybe you just get it over with. He can breathe easy. Everyone breathes easy. He gets a great ovation, and we move on. But they don't seem comfortable with doing that as of right now.
What if it can go down a little bit?
I think that's what they're banking. I think
that's
that
not good for them, right?
Like
that's like kind of rooting against yourself a little bit, isn't it?
Exactly. That's where it's kind of a lose-lose. But I do think that's what Shapiro was talking about a couple weeks ago, that it might lead into free agency next year. And if Vladdy does love being a Blue Jay and wants to be a Blue Jay and doesn't take any of this personally, the fact that they haven't bit and just given him what he wants, if Ty goes to the Blue Jays, they will meet whatever else is out there plus $1, let's say. And I think Shapiro thinks if he gets to free agency, it's not $500 million. It's $350 or $4 or $450. It's not $5. And then Mark can basically say, see, I told you, it's not out there. And we shouldn't be forced to pay it to you either. That very well could be the case. But what if it is? And what if it's out there and the Mets are like, we'll just give you $550. Let's get it done right now. He goes, all right, I'll sign it. I'm not going back to the Jays. Like that, there's possibilities and an element of gambling on both sides. That's the nature of the beast. All right, Dear Hayesy-B later in the hour. Here is former MLBer. You hear him on Beadle and Decker on Sirius XM. Here is Cody Decker back on OverDrive. What's up, Cody? How you doing?
Oh, just living a nightmarish version of the dream. How you guys doing?
Yes. We're doing the same thing up here, man. And the Jays, they took an L today down at Citi Field, the Mets home opener, but for the most part it's been pretty positive. Everyone we discussed the Jays with, we naturally start with Vladdy and the perception of that person on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Where do you stand on him as a player and potentially on a $500 million player?
$500 million is a tough pill for me to swallow, as was the $750 million price tag on Juan Soto that you could never convince me was a good idea. This is a player that's eventually going to be a DH down the road. So how much offensive output are you planning for him to give you? And if we're talking about a 10 to 15-year deal, I don't know why any GM thinks that's a good idea either. Do I think this guy deserves to be paid a high AAV for the following years? Absolutely. But I am not very sold that a 10-year deal is what's best for business for the Blue Jays, to be quite honest. That being said, it is best for business that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. re-signs there and comes back and hopefully spends the next 5 years there. But if we're talking 10, 15-year deals, I don't know why anybody outside of the Shohei Ohtani deal, which, by the way, is a 10-year deal, yes, but it's paid over a 20-year period. On top of that, you're paying justifiably for two pitchers. You're paying $350 million pitcher for the pitcher, $350 million for the hitter. you're simply not getting even a semblance of that. Vladdy is a hell of a hitter, but he's not Shohei Ohtani on either side of the ball.
What about your perception of Bichette? I mean, do you think he should be a guy that should be locked up? He's had a nice little start here. I think he's a high-value player. What do you make of that?
Solid player, young. It's just a matter of what the years are going to be in the AAV. I don't really know what the plan is going forward. It's seeming like a lot of players want the deferred money. Are the Blue Jays interested in deferred money? It's not like they're hurting for cash. Rogers is worth $10 billion himself, man. Like, if it's all about that, then quite frankly, I don't know why this team actually hasn't overspent at all to this point. They have the money to do it, and frankly, it's the Blue Jays. You're the only team in town. And when I say the only team in town, I'm talking about in the country, man. Like, get it going. I do believe in this Blue Jays team right now. I think this is a team that could sneak into the wild card, either in the third or second spot. But the Red Sox that's a hell of a pitching staff. And the Yankees, despite not starting the year with Hill, Stanton, and being without Cole throughout the year, that is still the New York Yankees, and they're not going anywhere either.
Yeah, that's the reality of the American League East. And, we were talking a lot about that leading up to the season, that all these different teams around them, Baltimore, Boston, New York, had all taken different hits in different areas. You mentioned the Yankees in particular, but even Baltimore with Gunnar Henderson banged up early. And, they didn't necessarily add to their staff. If anything, they lost in terms of arms in the offseason. Yet, the Jays are 5-3 even with this loss today. And we're waiting on Max Scherzer, and this is an element of trying to project what could happen here, is that you're hoping you could get maybe 120 innings out of Max, 130. He had to be reasonable. He wasn't giving you 220, 230, 240. That was never going to happen. But now I have no idea when we're going to see him throw again. I don't know what it's going to look like. He went to Pennsylvania. He got the cortisone shot. Where do you stand on the likelihood that Max Scherzer can have an impact on this Blue Jays season?
I think he could, but I do think it's going to take some time. And frankly, if it's going to come down to the idea that maybe we've got to put Max on ice for a couple of months to really kind of get him up to speed, so maybe there could be a late season run, maybe that's a better option, considering the fact the guy's up there in age. We can't sit here and pretend that, not to mention he's had no healthy track record over these last couple of years. So frankly, this is what needs to happen. It's frustrating. It's upsetting to see for the Blue Jay fans. I like that Santander pickup. I do think they should have been a little bit more active during the offseason. But this team is still ready to win. The game today was obviously going to be a wash. I didn't think they were going to win this game. Kevin Gausman does not have good numbers against this Mets team, specifically for specific players, not to mention he got touched up a little bit early on in the game.
With Cody Decker, again, you can hear him on Sirius XM, former MLBer himself. The Dodgers 8-0. Is this good for baseball if they run off 110 wins, win another World Series, Shohei wins the MVP?
I think it's good for baseball if they win 162 games. All the Dodgers have done is shown all of you what you all can do. You just choose not to do it. I have no sympathy for billionaire owners that don't want to open up the purse. I'm sorry. Do it or don't do it. And if you don't do it, sell the team to somebody that will. The Dodgers clearly want to win. And by the way, all that money they spent generated a ton more money. Just think about the Japanese money that came into the Los Angeles Dodgers last year. If you believe reports, it's upwards of $250 million of just new Japanese money that came to that franchise last year alone. So you're telling me Shohei Ohtani's $700 million contract will be paid off in 3 years? Why aren't all of you doing this? It's a roadmap. It's right there.
Well, so Cody, do you buy that they can set the record this year for wins?
I do.
Yeah,
really? You think they can hit that kind of number? Wow.
I do.
Is it 120 or 119?
It would be 117, I believe, would be the new record.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not saying they're going to do it, but we're going to pretend this team can't do it. An 8-0 run. Remember, this team won the World Series last year with their JV pitching staff. They didn't have Tyler Glasnow. They didn't have Clayton Kershaw. They didn't have Tony Gonsolin. They didn't have Dustin May. And they didn't have Shohei Ohtani. Like, that's a 5-man rotation that's filled with 2 Hall of Famers and 3 All-Stars, and they had none of them. And now they're all back, except I don't know where you fit any of them, because now they have a 9-man rotation with more All-Stars and more Hall of Famers. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, not to mention their bullpen that has 4 quality closers in Scott, Gratterall, and not to mention Lyles. I mean, it's just one after – Blake Trinan. How did I forget about Blake Trinan, of all people? It's just – dear God, this team is built to win nonstop. I don't know where they're going to lose 50 games. I don't know where they're going to lose 40. I don't know how they're going to lose 10.
That's crazy. We talked about this last week, Cody. Is there a conceivable picture where they're in the finals, they're in the World Series, and Ohtani is hitting and pitching? Like, will we see some, crazy thing where he's, hits a home run and then he has to save the game in the ninth inning? Like, would that be the apex of what he could do and for Major League Baseball as well?
100%. In fact, we already got kind of a taster of it 2 years ago in the World Baseball Classic when he finished out and closed out the game for Japan, striking out Mike Trout on 3 fastballs. To this point, that might have been the most electric at bat I've ever seen in my life. And all I did was watch Mike Trout swing through 3 fastballs. There is a very good chance we're going to see something very spectacular. We haven't even seen him on the mound yet. We don't know what we're going to get on him yet. And again, this is the guy who won an MVP his first year as a full-time DH in the National League. No National League DH has ever won an MVP. No DH has ever won an MVP. He did it in his first try. So I put nothing past this man and this team.
No, I think that's definitely reasonable, and I'm curious. We're chatting with Cody Decker. Do you see him starting games? Like, I know the Dodgers have been very coy on when he's going to even be available. I think Roberts said recently, like, we're talking weeks, if not months. I don't think they really have anything penciled in. Or do you think it could be like what Noodles just pointed out, like maybe he's a bullpen arm that, spot duty, especially come playoff time?
This is actually why I think Dave Roberts is the best manager in Major League Baseball, and I've thought this for a couple of years now. That's why I always look back 5 years ago when people gave him flack trying to say, oh, they need to fire Dave Roberts. I giggled. The guy's absolutely brilliant, a great motivator, and knows how to handle his players. That team is take it from somebody who's played in the big leagues. Big league clubhouses are the most ego-filled places I've ever been in my life, and I cannot stress this enough. It seems like the Dodgers have absolutely no ego. You got Mookie Betts playing shortstop out of position right now. Everybody, it's all hands on deck. You have all-stars taking bench roles. You have closers not more than willing to be a setup guy or a seventh inning guy. The way he gets things out of his players, I put it past him to do everything. I bet we're going to see Ohtani start. I bet we're going to see him close. I bet we're going to see him set up. Everybody does everything on the Dodgers. It's the most remarkable thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and they're off to an 8-0 start. He is former MLBer. You can hear him on SiriusXM with Michelle Beadle and co-hosting Beadle and Decker. Great catching up with you, Cody. We really appreciate you doing this.
Gentlemen, let's go Toronto. I want the Blue Jays in the World Series. Come on,
let's
please, for the love of God, give it to me.
Let's do it. Jays, Dodgers,
1992.
Jays in 5. I love it. And 93. Don't forget, Carter walked off.
I never will ever
Can't. Thanks, Cody. Appreciate it.
Let it guess.
There's Cody Decker. Yeah, I mean, that 93 run, that's 32 years ago, which is crazy, man. It's a long time ago. But they got him. They locked him in.
They did. 93 might have been pretty crazy around here, was it not? I mean, like for sports?
The Leafs did their run too, right? It was the Leafs right into – because the Leafs were – like the Jays won in 92. Like Gilmore got here in 91, I think it was, early 91. And then 92, 93, Leafs conference final, lose to Gretzky. And imagine that, covering Gretzky in a playoff round at the Gardens. And obviously the Jays had won the World Series the year before. And then the Jays follow up, and the Leafs followed up. They end up playing Vancouver in the conference final.
Yeah.
Just crazy, man. And that alone is what is also wild, is like they were playing at the Gardens, and they were playing the Kings and the Canucks in the final series, like to get to a Cup final, which is just weird. Wild when you think about it, that Toronto was in the West for a long, long time. How about that travel, Jonas? Like they played San Jose. The second year they played San Jose, I think in the first round, I believe. And then Vancouver in the conference final. So they were going Toronto, San Jose, like back to, and you played every other night. Like you'd travel there, and then the next night you'd play, and then you'd come home, and crazy.
It is. Like that, you think about it, the travel, them being in the West, I forgot. Like Detroit used to be in the West. Like I remember playing Detroit in the playoffs when I was in Calgary, and we played a back-to-back in the playoffs. We played a Saturday afternoon game, and in Detroit, and Game 5, Game 6 was in Calgary the next night on a back-to-back.
Crazy.
Like, crazy stuff, you know?
Yeah, crazy travel. And, like, for the media, like, direct flights Detroit to Calgary would not exist.
Yeah.
You know, like, no one's doing a direct flight Detroit to Calgary.
No.
So that is challenging as well. Anyway, thanks again to Cody Decker. All right, Dear Hayesy-B later this hour. Jonas, do you have something in the tank here? Do you have a couple? Do you have a list?
I got lots.
We can get to it today. We can save it for next week. There's a lot of different options here because we're getting closer to playoff time, and you have some positives and you have some negative things you want to talk about when it comes to the Maple Leafs. Maybe we'll get to that. We'll get to Dear Hayesy-B. Our best bet still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Well, Friday is brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. A fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. Dear Hayesy-B coming up in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We'll get our best bets coming, too, as well. We get the Raptors playing Detroit tonight. Alex Ovechkin at home against the Blackhawks, Capitals Blackhawks tonight. And the Leafs are in action with Columbus in town tomorrow. And, Jonas, we are 7 games away from the playoffs. The Leafs have that X beside their name, right? The Leafs are right there. They're one of the 5 or 6, best teams in the league based on points. And they've been to the playoffs 9 years in a row. No other team in the league has a run like that. 9 straight years in the playoffs. You have a 6-pack, a Siegel 6-pack here. 3 reasons for optimism, 3 reasons for pessimism. Do you want which way do you want to start here in terms of what we're looking for in terms of the playoffs and the Maple Leafs?
Well, can I just start with one thing? I mentioned that Dodger game. What was really interesting for me, I went on ring night.
Yeah.
And the warmth that they feel towards their players, I've never experienced that here. And I was thinking, like, it just must all be the obvious. Like, they've won. And so, like, there's this, like, you just feel this, like, when they announce Mookie Betts, like, they love him.
Yeah.
And obviously people here love all the stars with the Leafs, but it's not at that level. And I wonder, like, if they went on a long run, like, even when Gilmore comes to the game or Clark, you feel that. And you don't totally feel that with these guys, even with everything that they've accomplished. And it was just interesting for me because I've been to so many Leaf games. I've never felt that. And so I just wonder if winning is what cures that.
It does. There's nothing that can match it. I was in the building for opening night after the Raptors won when their rings were being handed out as well. And I can relate to that, especially as a Torontonian. Like, you're from here and you were in L.A., so it was probably an out-of-body experience somewhat for you to watch the Dodgers. And you could probably be more objective and more, you can kind of soak it in a little bit more. But that night was crazy. Like, when Lowry came out, and I think he spoke with the crowd before, and like Van Vliet, and it was like they were calling trainers out, and people were going nuts. And it did have a very different feel. And you're right, even about those Leaf teams, who I idolized as a kid, like Doug Gilmour, Wendell Clark, my favorite players. They didn't even make it to the Cup final.
Yeah.
And they are revered to that extent because of those 2 runs. And the same thing with Sundin and a lot of the great Leafs of the late 90s and early 2000s. Same thing in 99-02. They made it to a conference final. That's it. Which great accomplishment, great run, revered. And you cannot get that level of affection for a team and an athlete like winning can. Like, there's nothing that can match it. And sure, that's what Dodger fans feel and Celtic fans feel right now.
But
that's the truth. Panthers.
There's other fan bases too. Like, Boston's had a lot of winning in that city, so a team that makes it to the second round to be like, like now, because they would look back and go, hey, we've had so much winning, this is failing. Like, you can imagine what Boston's like right now with the Bruins. Is like, oh, they suck. They
probably don't even talk about them now.
Yeah,
right.
Like, you're out. We're not talking about you.
But that's their expectations have adjusted because that whole market has had so much winning and success. Where they lost in the first round, or if they lost in the second or third round, people would be like, all right, that's not that I've seen them do.
The goalposts move a little bit because of what are the expectations for sure, and I think LA would be an example of that. LA probably expects as a market, you got to win. And the Dodgers, they actually won, and they dominated. And if you're a diehard fan, or even if you're just a fair weather fan, it's just a great bandwagon to jump on. Like that, the latest, example of that in Toronto would have been the Raptors, where every single round, it was more and more people got on board. And by the time you get to the finals, the whole city is on board. And not everyone was for Game 1 when they were playing Orlando. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like the whole city was buzzing about it. But by the time they got to Game 6 in Golden State, everyone was paying attention. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Yeah, there's different expectations in every single market.
Is Drake at any of the games these days?
I don't think Drake's showing off a lot down the stretch.
I mean, they only play bad teams for some reason down the stretch.
Their schedule's so easy. That's the thing. If they were a competitive team, like they would come down the stretch like 18-2. They've just been playing horrible teams.
It is
every single night. But you raise a good point, Jonas. And
it was just interesting. Like it was. I think it's like a difference between loved and maybe beloved. Like they haven't reached that, but if they were to win,
it's immortal.
Those guys are top of the mountain.
It's a different level if you pull it off. The civic pride that comes with it, representing the city, especially a fan base like the Leaf fan base, who have just been waiting for so long for like a cup final would just be bedlam here.
Yes.
Even if they lost in it, it would be something that we haven't seen in almost 60 years.
So you want optimism first or pessimism?
Well, with that note, I don't know. I kind of want to end on some optimism. What do you think?
Only optimism?
Well, no, I was. Okay.
Do you want to just stick with optimism and we'll do negative?
No,
we'll do pessimism next week.
Sure.
We could do that.
Okay, because I was going to say you should come with the heat because you just said the fuzzy, but then go, by the way.
All right, start with the optimism
concerns.
And we'll see where we're at. And maybe we'll sneak in some pessimism here on the way.
Number one reason for optimism is their power. Well, I'm not going to rank them.
Okay.
The power play is number one in my little 3-pack. And I think I was very skeptical of this 5-forward thing. I don't think it's been perfect. I think there have been real dips, obviously. I still have questions, and I need to see it, about it coming through in really important moments because that's obviously been a problem. But their power play has been bad in the playoffs pretty much every year, except that year they went to the second round when it was good at times and not good at times. But if their power play can be a weapon like this, where it's just like it actually is dangerous and scores important goals, that's something that they haven't had, and that's a big factor, I think, in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been lethal recently. We had Mark Giordano on yesterday, and Gio hates the 5 forwards. I
wonder why.
Yeah, and he made the point. He followed up. Obviously he's a defenseman, but he also said, a shorthanded goal in the playoffs is just crushing, man. It's so deflating.
Well, and can you imagine your show if they give up a shorthanded goal and they lose the game? It'll lead the first. You'll talk about it the entire first hour.
Yeah, 2-2 in the third. They get a power play and they give up a shorty because Marner cheats on something as the high man or whatever.
Yeah, I mean
that can happen.
I looked up the numbers yesterday. I believe it's 4 goals they've given up with those 5 guys on the ice.
Okay, optimism. We're in the optimism
space.
Right. Okay, you got the power play as one of the 3 reasons for optimism. Okay, what else do we have?
You mentioned Jake McCabe earlier in the show. They have not had a top pair quite like this before in the playoffs, theoretically. We'll see what happens with the injuries and everything like that. But they've never had a dominant shutdown pair like this. They have had good pairs. Muzzin and Hall was pretty good, but it wasn't this. Brody and Riley never played together in the playoffs, really, and they weren't obviously this. Mm-hmm. But if you can have one pair that actually can shut down an opposing top line and really also impact a penalty kill, that's a different thing that they haven't had in the past. The closest thing to Tanev is Muzzin, and I don't think Muzzin was quite on this level defensively. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And he was playing on his offside a lot, and that's another significant part of it. And yeah, Tanev just battles, man. You watch him fight for pucks. That's the most obvious thing about him is you see he every single board battle he is pushing and fighting, and he's a pain in the ass to play against. And I would agree with that. And that's why the McCabe injury is so concerning.
Well, he's got did they even say what it is?
No, they never say anything.
But he's got but is it
the concussion history worries me?
That's what he's got. That's what worries me. He plays a tough game, but he's got he's got the bad head. He's got a couple concussions. He had the fight where he got knocked down and out or whatever it was, and missed some time. He got the puck in the back of the skull, which was horrifying, on so many different levels. But he plays a brand of hockey where, whoever you're playing, somebody's punching him in the face in a scrum. That's, so
and
they
he'll
got to make
punch
sure
back.
he's healthy.
That's the way he plays. But
you're right. But I'm just saying, he's a guy that you worry about, because if he doesn't have 100% squash, then that could hurt him. Same thing, Carlo's a guy, I like that fight the other day, but he's a guy who has concussion issues. So, you have to pick your fights, because you don't want to just get involved and somebody lands one on the button and now all of a sudden you're out 2 weeks, and that we don't have 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
Okay. McCabe and Tanev, top pairing.
Good,
reason
good
for
point.
optimism. What about number 3?
Reason number
Third
3?
Reason for optimism.
I think the emergence of Nyes and McMahon is the third reason for optimism.
Mm-hmm.
If you look back in previous years, I was looking at this the other day, the 5th and 6th scorer, they've had guys who've scored around 20 goals. But it's not like this. It was Michael Bunting. It was Bertuzzi. It was Mikheyev once upon a time. It was not guys who I think will score in a series. I think Nyes especially, and McMahon to a lesser degree. They didn't have McMahon obviously in the playoffs last year. That hurt them. And Nyes is just he's just a he's a freight train.
Right
he's
a beast.
He's a beast. And in the playoffs, we have seen him elevate. So I think the fact that they have those 2 guys on top of the other 4 guys gives them another dimension that I don't know that they totally have had in previous years.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, the core 4 are the core 4, and they're expected to do what they're supposed to do, and they've got all that uber talent and all the money and all that. But I do think, you got to fill out a line. The great lines in the sport. The third guy isn't just some plug who cruises around. I mean, the guy, they've got to contribute something. And, I think the fact that there's symmetry with left shot, right shot, they both shoot left. They're both bigger guys. McMahon can get in on a forecheck, a chip and chase play. He can make that play because of his skating ability. And they also are well aware of who they are. The pecking order, you're third in line. Go into the corners, go to the front of the net. If something happens with these guys where someone's popping off, you got to get in there and help. All those. I think in terms of the identity of the line, finding McMahon in particular, Nyes has been there the whole year. It's been that top line the whole year. But they've worked in different guys with Tavares and Nylander, and that's officially been solidified. It's McMahon, and I think that's big.
Well, it is, because he's settled in there. It didn't, he kind of wasn't in there. They were moving Pacioretty early on, Robertson, Holmberg, guys like that. You needed stability in that top 6. He's provided it, and he's playing with more confidence too now. There was a time there where he wasn't playing with a lot of confidence, and it goes hand in hand with who you play with, your ice time, all of that. Wasn't he nicked up earlier in the season? I can't remember.
Well, he didn't start well. Remember, he didn't have a good camp.
He was a healthy scratch in the opener.
Yeah,
think about that.
Wasn't happy with him, and a lot of it is who you're playing with. You got to be a smart player to play with those guys, and you got to stay out of their way, but also put them in positions to succeed. It's a weird mentality when you're the third guy, and McMahon, it's particularly pronounced. But credit to him, he's taking advantage of it. He knows exactly what he's supposed to do, and Berube, can have that chat with him, I think, in a much more concise way. I don't know if Berube is talking with Willie on a wavelength of the way he operates, the way he plays. Berube, I'm sure, can look at McMahon and kind of see himself to an extent and say, don't, take advantage of this, man. You were in the American League 16 months ago. Now you're playing with John Tavares and William Nylander in the playoffs. Go fight. Go battle and skate and hit everything in sight and block every shot. And I think Berube appreciates that, and I'm sure that messaging is probably pretty clear cut. All right, I think we leave it at optimism. I think Jonas, you being labeled an optimistic guy, I think goes a long way for your reputation.
Yeah, that's what I need.
I think so.
I think I'm a realistic guy.
No, aren't you known as kind of a negative guy on the Leafs on this show?
Yeah, because these guys don't like to hear anything that's real. They just
Right.
want the spin.
Yeah, that's truthful.
The
I'm
no
sure my
spin zone.
reputation wouldn't be great down there. I can guarantee you it's not.
Turns out there's not always good things to talk about.
Sometimes it's not
Shocking.
always rosy.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
try to keep things balanced. We mentioned 9 years in a row they made the playoffs. No other team in the league has done that.
Yeah, cool.
Right? That's very good stuff. Going to the playoffs. Columbus in town tomorrow. All right, today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I got a parlay you got to pay a little bit of juice on. Capitals money line, Ovechkin anytime goal scorer tonight. Ovi's got to get on the board. Gretzky's in the house tonight. Bettman will be down there. Everyone's there. They're waiting for him. Blackhawks stink. Sets up perfectly for the Caps to win and Ovi to get on the board playing minus 104, a little bit of juice. Basically a pick 'em for that parlay. I love it tonight. Today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every NHL game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19+, physically located in Ontario. We'll come back with Dear Hayesy-B. To wrap up the week, OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Now, back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
People send in a tweet. They write us for our professional advice on life things. Dear Hayesy-B, every morning my boiler has a gas leak. My wife thinks it's the baby.
Dear Hayesy-B.
If you want to come to Hayesy-B, I need honesty from you.
Hazy, you got dumped a lot. Tell him.
Grown adults with birthdays, it's asinine.
All right, this is a rarity because the medium guy isn't here, right? The
Yes.
medium guy is not here. And this is his brainchild. This is his baby. This is how he likes to operate and run the whole thing, Jonas.
Yep.
But I think this is great that we're replacing him, his idiocy, his warped view of the world with you, Jonas,
Yes.
who is, I think, very even-keeled and very cultured, and you've well-traveled, the whole nine, right? So I think you can help with this stuff. All right, let's begin with Jimmy from St. Catharines. Tweeting in, I believe. Dear Hayesy-B, I'm the captain of a summer men's league team that includes my dad. He played a few years in Europe, can still snap it around a little bit with us young guys. My girlfriend's dad caught wind of this and asked to get in for this year's team. But he hasn't played in 10-plus years, and we got bumped up to the A division this year as opposed to the B tier where we were the champs last year. My girlfriend thinks it'd be a great idea to allow him to join the team. I'm also planning to pop the question in July, don't really want to gas this guy, and then maybe it's rocky in the future if I got to ask for permission and he becomes an in-law in the future. Dear Hayesy-B, Jonas, Noodles, how do I handle this? What's the play?
I think that's tough because if you end up gassing him, then how are you going to have that conversation when you want to ask for his daughter's hand? You got to let him play.
I don't think you have a choice, man.
gotta let him
I
play.
wouldn't let you play on our team, but
Yeah, he's on. You got here's the answer. You got to accept it. You got to let him play.
Yeah.
You got to lean on him because he's older. Maybe he's got a little bit more money. He's got to supply beer, probably more than the other guys do. You know, generally it's a rotation. Everyone's got to be included. I think it's reasonable to say you can play, but you know, you got to bring something to the table here. And in terms of playing, in terms of endurance, if it gets late into a game, because these games get serious, man. I find it goofy. I think it's crazy. But you get into an A tier, like these guys think they're playing for the cup, right?
Yeah,
they think like
that's
there's
true.
NHL scouts in the building. It's lunacy, some of the activity you see. You got to make it pretty clear that it's not house league rules where everyone gets a shift. He might get skipped at some point in a big game. Wow. I think you just got to be blunt, man. You got to be clear with that.
Don't you think, too, you could say to him, like, listen, you got to get out and get back into shape or at least skate on the side a little bit to get your game back in order.
Right.
Maybe, tell him that it's serious. Like, hey, like, you want to be on this team, you're going to have to, like, get your act
but
together.
you can't say that to. You can't say that, right?
It's
Well,
tough.
I'm sure you could say, listen, we're going up a tier. We'd love to have you. You know, you're a really good player back in the day. How are you feeling about your game right now?
I
would
don't
just
know if he
say
is,
that?
though. That's
I would
the
just
thing.
stress that it's a really competitive league. Just be aware that this is really competitive, and then I think you're secretly hoping that he sees what it's like, and he's like, I can't play in this. And then
That's the
he's
only
out.
way out.
That he bails?
Then he bails,
fakes an
or like
injury.
maybe
Yeah.
it's
Fakes an
one and
injury.
done, and he's like, this
That's
is
the
too
way
much.
out. Hey, I'd love to have you on. I want you on the team, but the guys are kind of crazy about us being competitive, that might be your way out. Lay the framework like, I want you on the team. You're on the team. You're on my team. Like you be really, really adamant about that. But you make it clear that this is competitive. It's high stakes. The guys are good players. And because if he shows up there, man, and he's bending ankle out there and just huffing gas, you're like, you can't. That's crushing, man. And hopefully he would have the presence of mind after that first skate to be like, I can't play in this league. Like, I can't keep up. There's no way.
And then makes one of your teammates the bad guy and be like, Ted over there, he just doesn't think he can hang. Like, I don't know.
Ask him, be like, dude, within earshot, little chirp, how'd this guy make the team? So it's kind of an indirect comment. Who invited this guy out? And you're like, hey, relax. It's Ted. We love Ted.
Yeah, we love Ted, but who gave this guy a jersey?
So just send a little bit of a message to him. All right, I get people sending me DMs on Instagram all the time with Dear Hayesy-B's. All the time. Like they'll tweet into the show, they'll Instagram into the show, and they'll send DMs to my Instagram, and then I start filtering through them and send them to Doogie, and this is one that came in. I love this. The guy ends it with hashtag Hayes is a fraud. I don't even know why I'm even accepting this submission. But, he said, quote, my good golf friend, who we will refer to as Bendy, got a hole-in-one at our local simulator last week. He's been sending the video to anyone and everyone talking like the ace is legit. He's getting roasted in our friend group for even suggesting it counts as a real ace, real hole-in-one. How should we handle this? There it is. He also said, much like our beloved TSN colleague would, Jack Armstrong, get that garbage out of here. Would love to see you guys and hear you guys weigh in on this. Jonas, I could see you being a golf sim guy. If you hit a hole-in-one on a simulator, how are you supposed to handle that?
It's not a hole-in-one.
No,
Go
it's
ahead,
not.
Jonas.
Like that. Let's get that out of the way with. It's not a real-life hole-in-one. And
even
the idea
if
that you're pretending it is crazy.
But even if it was a real one, like, Hayes, like you golf a lot, say you hit a hole-in-one, would you be sending everyone at TSN a video? Would you?
We wouldn't hear
it'd
the
be
end of
played
it.
on the show immediately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sure.
We wouldn't hear the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be we'd have to break into Sports Center. Like
I honestly might storm the set. Like just move Sarah Davis right out of the way. Like you're out, Kara, you're out, Lindsay. Everyone's got to move because I'm coming in to tell my hole-in-one story. Yeah. I do think a real legit hole-in-one is one. I'd send it to my friends, like a lot of people. I think you got to be careful. I don't. We're being facetious here. I wouldn't be stopping people in the streets. But a golf simulator one, I'm sorry, just does not count.
I don't even know why. Like, I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. That's like saying, hey, I played Mario Kart and I'm a great driver.
That's right.
And, guys, like, I can be a race car driver. I'm going to go race Jeff Gordon out on the course because I'm really good on TV. Like, that's... I'm sorry, that it's ridiculous. Like, it's not even close.
It's not even close. You hit a screen. You probably flushed the shot. Good for you. Good contact, right? You really compressed your iron or whatever. But you hit a screen. That does not count. You cannot be. You can't be pretending as if you've accomplished something.
There was no wind in the simulator.
Nothing. There's a perfect lie. It's nothing. There's nothing Hayes, about it that's real.
I have a good question for you. Maybe it's a good question.
Yeah.
When you were nominated recently, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, yes.
Did you send that to everyone? Because that is a legitimate honor. That's not like a joke hole-in-one on a course.
It was.
That's legit.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was getting chirped again on Instagram because I did post a story about it.
Okay, good.
After it had been mentioned on the show. I didn't post anything. I didn't say anything. I didn't bring it up. O brought it up. Noodles, you were on the show.
Yeah,
O was the guy. He brought it up. You guys brought it up. I appreciate you bringing it up. It's a great honor, Canadian Screen Awards. And then I was like, you know what? I'm proud of that. I'll post something.
Well, he was Captain Quote Tweet after that. Like
there were a couple of quote tweets. Yeah.
People
hey,
going
if you want to
like,
reach out.
hey, congrats. It's like quote tweet. Thank you very much for
couldn't do it without everyone else.
That's deserving though.
No, it was. We were all proud.
Yeah.
We were all proud, and it was very cool. But no, you did not storm the set. You knew about it. To be honest, a few of us just found out about it like an hour before, type of thing. Like it was. I wasn't on the information waterfall. Like I literally heard about it before the show, and then started the show with it. So
Right.
It was pretty cool.
I did not say anything. Like, I spoke with people at TSN. I spoke with Jeff McDonald, our boss, that day. He called me about something else. He was calling me about the Masters or Al's brother or something. and I didn't bring it up to him, even though I knew. I'm like, I'm not saying anything, because there was a part of me that's wondering if they were going to like rescind it and be like, sorry, there was a mistake.
What if it's a joke or something?
That wasn't what we were supposed to do. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up, Jonas.
You're welcome.
When someone else brings it up, because that brings up a good point. Hole-in-one golf sim guy, if someone else brings it up, then I think you're free to run with it and say it was amazing and really exciting, and, it's all good. But you're right, Noodles. Like, if you're at an arcade and you're driving some race car game, that doesn't mean you're Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, like Big Buck Hunter or something. You shot a bear. Like, you didn't go, hey, I killed a bear.
Now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all you did was shoot it on a screen. You're not an actual, hunter or whatever. So I don't know.
Go try that. Go see if you can go test that theory out with real bears and in the wilderness and see what comes back. But the golf sim stuff, golf sims they've really revolutionized the sporting world. And I saw actually Lawrence Applebaum, our good friend Lawrence, doing a hit with Bob Weeks. I think it was at the Players. And they were just talking about golf in the country and how popular it is now and how popular it's become. And I think Lawrence mentioned like golf simulators, because you need it in the wintertime. Like, that's the thing with, if you play tennis, if you pickleball, I guess you can go inside. I guess you can, but it's not the same. There's certain outdoor sports where, golf in particular and tennis in particular, although tennis, I guess you can play indoors as well with a dome and all that. They have those throughout the city, probably throughout the country. But golf, you'd get to November, it was like, we're done for 5 months. Can't play. Gone. Like, put your clubs away. Now with golf simulators and that business kind of being alive and available to people, it really allows you to kind of feel like you're still in form, or at least you pick up the club, you go out and hit some balls. It really has changed, I think, the way Canadians approach that sport. So, I don't know. Maybe the time will come where a hole-in-one at a golf simulator will actually mean something. Yeah. Like, you take the ball from the establishment.
They come and take your picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're on the wall.
Drinks on me. Everything. Everyone's. I'm buying, because I just did a hole-in-one at a golf sim. Anyway, there you go. Dear Hayesy-B. And as we know, it's brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP, where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. A fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. All right, Columbus in town tomorrow. And it feels like every game is borderline must-win because of what's on the line here. And after this, they're going to go down to Florida. They play the Panthers on Tuesday and Tampa on Wednesday. That's just tough of a back-to-back, and as meaningful of a back-to-back in the regular season as I can remember,
in
Jonas.
a long time.
Like, when was the last time they scooted through Florida in April in the regular season, and it meant what it's going to mean next week?
Well, remember all the previous years where it's like we know who they're going to play since like January?
Yeah.
It's different now. It's like they could play anyone.
Any combination they could play. Like, they could still start on the road in Florida or in Tampa. They could fall to the 3 seed by next Wednesday. You lose tomorrow night, and then you lose those games down there in Tampa and Florida. You probably are in third at that point. Like, it can happen that quickly. They got a 3-point buffer. It's a good spot to be in. But you gotta try to get one tomorrow. And again, if you're Montreal, if you're Ottawa, if you're the Rangers, you're looking at Columbus here, thinking the Leafs can beat them tomorrow night in regulation. That's a big hit for the Blue Jackets. Yeah. You can't take them lightly, because the Columbus plays Toronto really well, and they got something real on the line tomorrow night, man. You're going to get a good effort out of that Blue Jacket team.
Big time.
That is for sure. The Jays continue their series down in New York. They lost this afternoon 5-0 to the Mets, the home opener for the New York Mets. So we'll see what comes out of it with the Jays. And by Monday, we'll be on the air, and it'll be Masters Week, right? We got one more weekend of golf down in San Antonio. Then the Masters kicking off next week. We cannot wait for that. We'll obviously be talking Leafs, Raptors, Jays, the whole nine. All right, Jonas. Good seeing you, man.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks for doing this. Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.